Well, if we were able to implement everything that we learned in last week's lesson, we're miles ahead from where we started, right? Everyone remembered? And this week, we're doing strength and serenity, the Kabbalah of calm confidence. And we all need strength. We all need inner peace. We need that calm confidence in this crazy world. And what we explained last week is that the secret is living in alignment with how we are designed. And we compared ourselves to the tree. Adam eitz hasadeh. Man is like a tree in the field. And trees have certain qualities, besides for being very rooted, which is essential, but they have 4 special qualities. And living in alignment is a key secret. And so it's about finding meaning and finding health. There was an Irish Catholic. He said, he turned to his neighbor. He said, Donnie, maybe you could take me to synagogue. He says, I don't know. You want to come to a synagogue? He says, yeah, I want to see what happens in the shul. What do they do in the shul? I want to see. You go there every Saturday morning. I want to see. So he says, it's going to be very confusing to you. The words are in Hebrew. He says, so you'll explain it to me. So Donnie brings his friend. What's a good Irish name? Give me an Irish name.
Liam.
Patrick. Patrick, come to synagogue. Okay, Patrick sits down in the back. He says, Donnie, why do they lift the Torah? What are they doing over there? What's the meaning behind that? It's like, oh, when they lift the Torah, they show it to everyone. That shows that Torah is our life and our support. He says, up in the front, what's that curtain on that furniture in the front? He says, oh, the meaning behind that is that it's a holy ark, and that's where we keep our sacred Torah scrolls. It's handwritten, and it takes many hours, and it's sacred, and it's kept our Jewish people alive through 2,000 years in exile. Then the rabbi gets up to the front to deliver his sermon. The rabbi pulls out his watch and puts it on the lectern. Patrick asks, Donnie, what's the meaning of that watch? He says, unfortunately, it means nothing. The watch means nothing. The rabbi's going to talk and talk for hours. So, we're all seeking meaning. Meaning is very important. And so let's review. The first ingredient we had from last week was growth. To be aligned with yourself is the human need to grow. When we're growing, we feel alive. When we're just running away from pain and seeking pleasure, we don't feel alive. We feel dead inside. Our instinct is to seek pleasure and avoid pain. That's our instinct. But we don't feel human. We don't feel like a mensch. If you want to feel like a mensch, you have to try to grow to something beyond instinct. Beyond instinct, to transcend the self. The next human trait that we learn from trees is productivity, the human need for productivity. So actually, someone sent me this video after last week's lesson, and it's like, I wish I could have shown it in the first lesson, but I figured, you know what? I could always show it right here. So I'm going to show you that.
1931, and General Mills is about to make you add an unnecessary egg to their Betty Crocker cake mix without you even noticing. Hey, I'm Lulu, and this is Branded into History, where we break down the marketing campaigns that left permanent marks on society. You know that egg that you add to your Betty Crocker cake mix? Yeah. It turns out you didn't actually need it. The original mix was perfect without it. So why do the instructions suggest that you crack an egg then? Let me tell you a story. The Great Depression hit and General Mills created something revolutionary. A just add water cake mix that made perfect cakes every single time. But there was a problem. Sales were terrible. So they hired psychologist Ernest Dichter to figure out why. He discovered that homemakers felt guilty about the simplicity of the process. Baking seemed too simple, too effortless, diminishing the sense of accomplishment. The solution was simple, yet effective. Remove the powder eggs from the mix and require the addition of fresh ones, giving homemakers a greater sense of involvement in the baking process. This strategy played into what's now known as the IKEA effect. The idea that people value products more when they contribute to their creation, by asking consumers to just add an egg, Betty Crocker transformed a simple task into a fulfilling experience, leading to a significant boost in sales. Today's cake mix still asks you to add an egg. Not because they have to, but because a psychologist in the 1950s figured out that guilt was the secret ingredient to success.
Okay. So, why do we have eggs in our Duncan Hines cake mix? Not because it's not going to work. The cake will be just as delicious if they did put in the powdered egg emulsifiers, but simply because this human need to be like God, we're created in God's image. God is creative. God is productive. We need to be makers. We don't want to just be takers and consumers. We want to be creators and makers. That is the second key to gaining inner confidence and strength, besides for growth and overcoming instinct, is being creative. The next ingredient, so we have growth, we have productivity, we have giving. The important need to be givers. And that we shared the beautiful story of the accountant in the hospital, Telushkin, and the Rebbe gives him a call for an accounting problem while he's in the hospital. People like to give, people like to be productive. We have to be givers, and otherwise we don't feel alive. So people that are seeking meaning, they want to know what is this life all about? They need to be giving. And finally, we ended off last week's lesson with the importance of building strong social bonds, not for transactional purposes, but to be connected and to be bonded with others. That is a deeply human need, to be social. Okay? And so whoever is implementing that in their lives already has a lot of strength already, a lot of inner confidence already. Just by implementing those tools, it's good for your mental health, it's good for your emotional regulation and health. Perfect. And yet, it's not the end of the story. There are people who have achieved all this and still feel empty. Still feel empty. And so we're going to peel back one more layer in this week's lesson to try to go a little deeper. And before we do that, we're going to do a little puzzle. We have here, it's not a puzzle, but we have here 2 items. And I want everyone to take a moment to call out what they think. We'll shift. We'll start with the item on the left. Could someone suggest what the item on the left is for? What is it used for?
It's to take out pits.
To take out pits. That's the item on the right?
No,
On the left?
on the right.
On the right. Okay, starting with the left. Item on the left.
Sorry.
Item on the left. What is it for? Anyone want to suggest?
Looks like some sort of shelf.
It's like a shelf. Okay.
Mini shelf.
A mini shelf. To hold what? What would it be holding?
Something.
Yeah, for
If
your,
you put on
maybe
something.
not a coating in it, but it's like for your keys. and
Maybe
your
for your
wallet.
keys or your wallet. Okay. Anyone else want to suggest what the left might be for?
To hang something.
To hang something, maybe a washing cup. Maybe. Okay. How about the item on the right? Sophie, let's give other
All right.
people.
I'm not
'cause-
saying
And what's the item on the right for? Anyone want to suggest?
I think it fits some sort of.
Okay, a depitter to take pits out of cherries, you said?
Could be
Right?
cherries. could
Okay.
be- Yeah.
maybe-
Anything else? What else might it be used for? Maybe to crush your medicine? Who knows? No,
To
no.
crush that lemon.
Spices, okay.
Those security alarm things off those clothing.
Oh, very good. In the checkout stores to take off the security tags. Okay. So we'll get back to this a little later, but this exercise was useful, even if you don't appreciate that right now. Okay, so let's turn to text 1A, and we come here to the words of King Solomon. We'll share with, yeah. So we come here to the words of King Solomon. Now,
What page is
we're
it?
on page 38. Page 38.
No.
Okay.
Oh,
Page 38. Okay, so we come to the words of King Solomon. Now, there's generally, people are seeking happiness. They have two strategies. Strategy number one is called the YOLO strategy. Everyone familiar with YOLO? You only live once. Very good. We need someone from this generation to help us out. You only live once. You only live once. You might as well try it all. You know, go on. You know, don't spend your life at work. Go on trips. Go on adventure. You know, do crazy things. You know, get into relationships that are insane. But whatever. You only live once, right? And King Solomon tried this strategy. Let's take a look. Text 1a. Genya, you have a book?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So text 1a, page 38.
Okay. I amassed great wealth. I built home planted vineyards. This is Solomon's experiment.
Yeah.
I designed gardens and orchards filled with every kind of fruit tree. I made reservoirs to water entire groves of trees. I acquired male and female servants and had more cattle, herds, and flocks than anyone before me in Jerusalem. I piled up silver and gold and the treasures of kings and provinces. I brought in male and female singers and every luxury people could desire, chests and chests of it. I became wealthy than anyone who came before me in Jerusalem, and I still had my wisdom. I didn't hold back from anything my eyes wanted. I didn't deny myself any pleasure. I took joy in everything I achieved. But in the end, that joy was all I really got from it. Then I looked back at all I had worked for, everything I had built and gained, and it was all pointless, just chasing the wind, nothing truly lasting under the sun.
Okay. So this is, he obviously didn't take lesson one of the course, right? He would have known that he's chasing. You try this, you try that. But then, as psychologists later termed the phrase, hedonic treadmill. And this tells us that people have a baseline of happiness. You know, some people are more jovial and some people are more mellow or depressed. I have this friend that calls me every once in a while and I say, "How are you?" And always her response is, "I'm medium. I'm okay." I know this is going to be her response, no matter, you know, what happened to her in the day. Everyone has their baseline. And then they win a lottery. They're high, they're flying. 2 weeks later, they're back to their baseline. Even though the same, you know, I got married. 2 weeks later, back to the baseline. Everyone has their baseline and everyone's chasing. Maybe this next thing will make me happy and the next thing, but the happiness lasts for a short time and then people fall back to their baseline. And that's what King Solomon's saying. It's all pointless. But King Solomon, one thing he mentioned is he said, and I still had my wisdom. So his wisdom was to take lesson one. He came to the class, and let's go to text 1b, where in text 1b, he describes that actually he tried the next steps. So let's get another online volunteer. Dr. Joe, maybe you can read for us. Text 1b, page 40.
Okay. Let's see. All right. I turn my thoughts to understanding wisdom and also madness and foolishness. I saw that wisdom is better than foolishness, just as light is better than darkness. A wise person sees where they are going, but a fool stumbles in the dark. But I also realized that the same fate awaits them both. So I thought, if I'll end up just like the fool, what's the point of being wise? And I saw that this too is meaningless, because neither the wise nor the foolish are remembered for long. In time, both are forgotten. And in the end, the wise person dies just like the fool. That made me hate life. Everything happening under the sun seems so pointless, just chasing the wind. All right, well, I got to take a break and hang myself now.
God
well,
forbid.
well, you're actually in good company. We'll get to that soon. But King Solomon, what's so remarkable is the writer who's writing this. If you think about King Solomon, he reigned for 40 years. He's king. He brought unprecedented peace to the land of Israel. How many Jewish kings lived during peacetime? King Solomon lived for 40 years, peacetime, fortified the infrastructure, trade, and military of the land of Israel, composed thousands of proverbs and songs. Additionally, in our tradition, he recorded these marvelous medical books and other fabulous things. And what's he most famous for? He constructed the first Jewish temple in Jerusalem, the holiest site. His credit. That's nothing. That's nothing to be excited about. That's all pointless. But there's a part of him who felt we all die, and then we're just living on a ball that's floating through space. It's all nothing. And there are many people that feel this way. You come to them and parents tell their teenager, go to school, make a life for yourself, and then you'll be a doctor, and then you'll have good relationships, and what are you staying in bed for? You make a life for yourself. And then the teenager says, and then what? And what? And I'll have a good life, and what? What do I need a good life for? And it's like the older generation doesn't understand this question. Like, what do you mean? They'll have a good life. And they think the young generation is so dumb and so stupid. But really, the young generation is just like King Solomon. They're like, and what? So I died the healthiest person, the richest person, the fittest person, the most spiritually enlightened person. And what? And then I died. And then it was all over. What's the whole point of this? Yeah. Now, I notice nobody from this class suffers from that problem, right? Everyone's feeling good and great. But in case you are, or in case you want to address somebody else who is, this is what you might tell them. So let's take a look. Here's another element to King Solomon's state of perfection. In the Zohar, the King Solomon is considered the full moon. The full moon. Why? The Jews are compared to the moon. The moon goes through a cycle. It wanes and waxes. It goes from nothing. And the whole Jewish calendar goes on that. And that's the women celebrate the Rosh Chodesh society. It's on Rosh Chodesh, the new moon. And it's a 30-day cycle. And when's the moon at its fullest? On the 15th. King Solomon was 15 generations from Abraham. And so Abraham is like starting the growth. And it peaks at King Solomon and then goes 15 generations of downhill. So King Solomon, he's at the peak. He's the peak. He's the full moon of the Jewish people. And he says all that perfection is meaningless. Let's take a look at Nachmanides, text 2. I had a feeling someone was going to ask that question, and I said I'm going to do the research, and then I ran out of time. So maybe in the follow-up email, I'll include the research into that.
Fun fact, I was born on the
You were born on the 15th of which month?
July.
Of July. But that's a solar month. Do you know the Hebrew month? Maybe Tammuz. Maybe 15th of Tammuz. Okay, beautiful. Okay, so let's get a volunteer in person, but with a loud voice. Audrey, you can read it with a loud voice. Text 2.
Text 2.
Yeah.
Right over here. Futility of utilities, said Kol Halet, futility of fertility. All is futile. If another person had said this, we would have said they never amassed even 2 coins in their life. Yet they speak about the wealth of the world and declare it futility. But Solomon, about whom it is written, the king made silver in Jerusalem as abundant as stones, is indeed suited to render all as futility of futility. Behold Solomon, the ruler, the powerful one, the wise, un, authored, I'm sorry,
Authored.
authored
Hmm.
this entire book to render the whole world as meaningless and to tell us that everything is utterly futile.
Okay, and let's read in the beautiful words of a famous writer, Leo Tolstoy. Okay, so maybe we could get an online volunteer. Dr. Jillian, you want to read for us? Text 3?
Sure.
Okay.
5 years
Great.
ago, something very strange began to happen to me. At first, I experienced moments of perplexity and arrest of life, as though I did not know what to do or how to live, and I felt lost and became dejected. But this passed, and I went on living as before. Then these moments of perplexity began to reoccur oftener and oftener, and always in the same form. They were always expressed by the questions: what is it for? What does it lead to? I understood that it was no causal indisposition, but something very important. And if these questions constantly repeated themselves, they would have to be answered. And I tried to answer them. The questions seemed stupid, simple, childish questions, but as soon as I touched them and tried to solve them, I at once became convinced, one, that they are not childish and stupid, but the most important and profound of life's questions, and two, that try as I would, I could not solve them. Before occupying myself with my Samara estate and education of my son or the writing of a book, I had to know why I was doing it. As long as I did not know why, I could do nothing and could not live. Amid the thoughts of estate management, which greatly occupied me at the time, the question would suddenly occur to me: will you have 6,000 desyatinas of land in Samara government with 300 horses? And what next? And I was quite disconcerted and did not know what to think. Or when considering my plans for the education of my children, I would say to myself, what for? Or when thinking of the fame my works would bring me, I said to myself, very well, you'll be more famous than Gogol or Pushkin or Shakespeare or Moliere or than all the writers in all the world. And what of it? And I could find no reply at all.
Okay. Ultimately, Tolstoy describes in his book that he seriously contemplated suicide. And there's a quoted that they actually have his notes that he prepared, and his note said, "Imagine a happy group of morons who are engaged in work. They are carrying bricks in an open field. As soon as they have stacked all the bricks at one end of the field, they proceed to transport them to the opposite end. This continues without stop. Every day of every year, they are busy doing the same thing. One day, one of the morons stops long enough to ask himself what he is doing. He wonders what purpose is there in carrying the bricks. And from that instant on, he is not quite as content with his occupation as he had been before. I am the moron who wonders why he is carrying the bricks." And this was his note to himself. And sometimes it's like, what are we doing? We're all just a bunch of morons chasing after this, chasing after that, and then you chase. You become more spiritually enlightened and more relaxed and more inner peace, and you do all the therapy work, and then what? And then what's the end?
Can I give another Tolstoy anecdote
Sure.
for the class?
Mhm.
So true, he was born to aristocratic family and he had to manage his estate. And he had lots of serfs, lots of poor commoners who lived on his sprawling estate. And he's a little bit of a tzaddik, Leo Tolstoy. And he built schools and churches and gave to all these commoners that lived on his land. And he ended up deciding that he was going to give it all to them. And he gave all his land and monies to all the commoners who lived on his estate. And he died a very, very poor man, and his wife was very angry with him. And he went away all.
Wow. Wow. Everyone on the Zoom heard most of that? Okay, good. Perfect. So So we have to dig a little deeper. We've talked a lot about the human desire for meaning. But if I were to ask you, do you need a rabbi to find meaning in life? What do you think a rabbi would answer you? What do you think a rabbi would answer? Do you need a rabbi to find meaning in life?
No.
No.
Sometimes, sometimes.
No, really, you could go to thousands of libraries and you find the self-help section, like the famous joke of the person comes to the librarian, where's the self-help section? Says, I think that would defeat the whole purpose. You know, you have to go find it yourself. But like you go find, and there's tons of books on finding meaning and really, you know, you're like, Rabbi, why did I have to pay for lesson 1? You know, okay, you found me Torah sources for all those things. So the Torah tells you where to find alignment within yourself, but you could also bump into it, right? You could bump into it. Where do people find the most meaning? And scientists could discover that. For that, you don't really need a rabbi or Torah. You could just accidentally fall into like, actually, I feel good being productive. I feel good. It feels meaningful to be a giver. It feels meaningful to be in relationships. So these things you don't really need a rabbi for. But for this second layer, this is really a key puzzle. Because a lot of these things, really the meaning is subjective. It's all kind of invented. You know, what's meaningful to you is not meaningful to someone else. You know, so kind of the real secret here is that really meaning, searching for meaning is really just a distraction. You don't want to spend your life searching for meaning. It's not worthwhile. That's what King Solomon's saying. Don't spend your life searching for meaning or filling your life with meaning. Could you imagine a rabbi saying that? Don't spend your life filling your life with meaning. So what should I fill my life with, if not meaning? Okay, for that, we're going to go to the story, the Purim story of Mordechai and Esther. Purim story takes us back between the destruction of the first temple, about 400 years after King Solomon. The Babylonians destroy the temple, and the Jews, already before the destruction, many of the elites are exiled into Babylon. But eventually the Persians win the Babylonians, and now most of the Jews live under the Persians. And King Ahasuerus kills his queen and wants a new queen. And who does he pick? A nice Jewish girl named Esther. Now, he doesn't know that Esther is a Jewish girl because Mordechai, Esther's uncle, says, keep it a secret. And Ahasuerus tries all these tricks. I'll make a party for you. I'll threaten you. But she doesn't reveal her identity. About 10 years later, Haman, the prime minister, pays Ahasuerus thousands of silver coins. Let me get rid of these Jews. Ahasuerus agrees. And now Mordechai gets a hold of one of the decrees going around Shushan, going around the capital, and sends a messenger to Queen Esther with the notes. Okay, so let's go to text 4a, page 46. Tali, you can read for us page 46, text 4a. Yeah.
Mordecai gave Hatat a copy of the written decree that had been circulated in Shushan, instructing him to show it to Esther and to urge her to go before the king, to plead with him and beg for the lives of her people. With Hatat, but he said, went and delivered Mordecai's message to Esther. Esther then said to Hatat and instructed him to relay her words to Mordecai. All the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces know that anyone, man or woman, who enters the king's inner court without being summoned is subject to death, unless the king extends his golden scepter, granting permission to live. And I have not been summoned to the king in 30 days. Esther's message was conveyed to Mordecai. Mordecai sent back this reply to Esther. Don't imagine that you, of all the Jews, will escape just because you're in the palace. If you remain silent at this moment, relief and deliverance will come for the Jews from another source, but you and your father's house will perish.
Okay, so we stopped halfway. There's a cliffhanger here. But Mordecai tells Esther, thank you. Hold on, no, that's good. You stopped at the right place.
Okay.
So Mordecai tells Esther, the Jews are in danger. Now's the time you have to go to the king. Esther says, everyone knows you go to the king uninvited, you get killed. I wasn't invited to the king in 30 days. This is dangerous. So what's Mordechai's first strategy? And I think this is the first strategy that all parents try with their children, or all the first base motivation. What is it? Say, hold on, you think you're going to be free of the pain? You think you're going to be out of this? You're going to die just like everybody else. Or, even better, we're actually going to survive. You're going to die if you don't do this. What's the argument he's making? Different commentaries offer different explanations. One is he's telling Esther, you eventually, someone's going to rat you out, because there are people that are jealous and want power. And so you think none of your maids are able to tell that you're keeping kosher in the palace secretly, or that you're keeping Shabbat? Eventually it's going to come out. And meanwhile, Jews that are far away from the capital, they'll be able to escape, maybe to a different empire, something. You're stuck in the palace. You can't get out. The king is not going to let you go. You're more at risk than everybody else. Right? Eventually, this is a do or die thing. But then he appeals, he goes through this, he makes a deeper argument. Text 4b. Tali, finish it off. Text 4b.
And who knows, perhaps you became queen for just such a time as this.
Esther said,
oh, should I stop?
Okay, so that's, so text 4b, wait before we get to text 4c. So text 4b, he says, and who knows, perhaps you became queen for just at this time. What's his argument? He's appealing to something much deeper. He says, it's not about life or death.
Right.
Doesn't matter. Maybe this is the whole reason you became queen. What's a Jewish girl doing in the palace? Maybe this is the whole reason. This is prime time. This is the game. This is kickoff. This is the moment. The spotlight's on you. Which of these messages do you think she responded to? Message A or message B? Let's go to text 4c. Genya, read for us text 4c, page 47.
Okay. Esther's response. Esther said to reply to Mordecai, "Go gather all the Jews who are found in Shushan and fast for me. Do not eat and do not drink for 3 days, night and day. I too, along with my maidens, will fast likewise. And then I will go to the king, though it is again against the law, and if I perish, I perish."
What does he say? She clearly accepted Mordecai's second argument. Mordecai's first argument, you'll die unless you do this. You got to do it, and don't you want to do something meaningful with your life? And that doesn't care. Says maybe this is what you're needed for. This is the whole purpose. Oh, if I die, I die. I'm okay. I just need to know that this is my purpose. Once I know this is my purpose, that's everything. That's the key. The key secret to what people really need to have that inner strength and inner confidence and inner serenity is just tell me, what am I needed for? What is my purpose? Once I know my purpose, I can go through anything. So I'll perish. I'll be lost. It's not about me. It's about what I'm needed for. That is really much deeper than finding meaning in life. Don't find meaning. Figure out what your purpose is and go and do it.
Isn't that basically the same thing as what you said in lesson 1?
Well, lesson 1 is about being in alignment with yourself. But there's 2 ways of being in alignment with yourself. One is, let me go search for, we'll explain in a moment. We'll get to it in a moment. I'll explain in a moment. What's the difference in these 2 ways of doing it? The first, the way of meaning is kind of subjective. What's meaning? What feels meaningful to me? Okay, I feel this is meaningful. I feel that is meaningful. Imagine you would turn to a child and say, what do you want to happen to you for the next next 50 years of your life? And what's important? And the child will write that everything that's the most important. And then have the child at 40 look at that list. Some of the things she'll look back fondly, say, wow, that was very sweet, very innocent. And actually, that was very pure. And I wish I could bring that back to me today. But some of those things, so foolish, such nonsense. You thought that was important? That's meaningless, right? And it's all, and we keep on doing it every year. We do another tweak. Okay, now I consider this as meaningful. Now I consider that as meaningful. And the start and the end is, let me find something meaningful. Okay, did I find it meaningful? Then it was success. Did I not find it meaningful? Okay, so I have to find something else meaningful. And so it doesn't really have any core. It's just a search in the wind because it's very subjective. Versus a purpose, that's objective. That's something that you don't get to decide. A deeper way of putting this is where it comes from. When someone's trying to fill their life with meaning, it starts off, I exist. Now, let me see how I can bring meaning into my life. So I exist is first. How can I add on meaning on top of that? Someone who lives a life of purpose, it's the opposite. The purpose exists first. I was created to serve that purpose. Let me go do that purpose. And the success of the purpose is whether I fulfilled my mission. So the line is from a very different starting point. One is whatever feels right. We don't really know what feels right. What feels right today might not feel tomorrow. And maybe it's not worthwhile to pursue. How good is our human system of inferring what's really good for us 10, 20 years down the line? You know, it's just like, it would be amazing if people from the older generation and people from the younger generation would talk more often. Because you see, the priorities are just so different. As they say, energy is wasted on the young, right? The older people say energy is wasted on the young. Because had I known what I know now, I would use all my energy to do something totally different, right? But we can't wind back the clock. But that's because people are searching for a life of meaning. What's exciting, what's meaningful, but that's not really what's going to give us inner confidence and strength. It comes from living a life of purpose. That means the purpose comes first. I was created to serve that purpose. Yeah, go ahead, Kenya.
Yeah. So the bottom line is, I mean, I completely get what you're saying. So the bottom line is that if the happiest people are the people that are living their purpose with purpose that is godly in the bottom line, like like if they're a gifted musician, they're doing something with their gift. If they're a gifted teacher, they're doing so what you're saying with meaning that doesn't fulfill what purpose is that they're just doing what makes them temporarily enjoy. Most
In
people
other words,
really, yeah.
some people are happy with material comforts. There are some people, you find them, they're
But
materially
that's not
comfortable.
purpose.
And
But
hold on. Let's go for basics. Some people are happy with just material comforts. Some people are that way, and we're jealous of them. Like, hey, that's amazing, right? But then you have people in first world countries that are all committing suicide. You're like, what's going on? You have all these comforts. You have hot water running to your tap for free. You just turn it on, turn it off. You can take a shower. It's like a kingly. And how come you're not? What's missing? Oh, so some people are more sensitive souls. They need a little deeper. Oh, so now a life of meaning. So, and yet it doesn't cut it. So we're really talking to those sensitive souls that meaning doesn't cut it. And we're trying to offer an explanation. There are people that are satisfied. Some people are satisfied, like the bricklayers. The Tolstoy's brick. Some people are satisfied moving bricks from one end of the field to the other, don't ask questions, and they're happy with that. And that's fine.
Well, they're good at it. So this is their purpose. They know they could build a beautiful house for people. It's so meaningful and
Oh, so
purposeful.
that's certainly true. So okay, so let's do one more slide and then we'll go one step deeper to I think what Genya's trying to get at. So back to our creations, okay? These two tools. Okay, so one, we've kind of figured out what it was. One is a cherry depitter. That it's a useful tool. And the other one is actually just made up by AI, right? It's just a AI generated product, never existed. And now everyone is like, oh, it could be used for a ring, for a wallet, for keys, for Netilat Yadayim, whatever you want. You're throwing meaning onto something that essentially has no meaning. Versus the other one is like, yeah, you could use that depitter to, what was that you suggested? To take off the tags from the product, from the clothing and the clothing tags, or it could maybe be used to crush some herbs. Okay, but that's not what it was meant for. It was meant to depict cherries, but you could use it for other things. Versus the other item, the AI generated item, it has no meaning. So you're putting on meaning on something who has no meaning. So people who are looking for a life of meaning is like, hold on, where's your premise starts? Is this world here by accident? So what are you trying to find meaning out of something that essentially has no meaning? That's like putting meaning onto this tool that was made by AI. Yeah, you might find something useful to do with it, but that's not what it was. It has no meaning, so your meanings are not anchored in anything real. Versus the depitter, it has a design. There's a purpose that it serves, and if you can meet that purpose, then you're living a common life. And where do we find that purpose? Oh.
Hey, cow, what's the meaning of life?
Here, have some.
Thanks. I'll pass. Parrot, what's the meaning of life?
What's the meaning of life? Oh.
Yeah, that's not helping. Lion, what's the meaning of life?
Life has meaning?
Noted. Moving along. What's that circle?
Take a guess.
A sun? That's it?
Wrong.
Maybe a person?
Nope.
I know, a balloon.
Nice, but no.
If it's not a sun, a head, or a balloon, maybe it doesn't mean anything.
It does, but it's in my mind. I made it for a purpose. You just have to ask me.
Okay, I give up. What is it?
A cake.
A cake?
You kept guessing the circle's meaning. Your answers were clever, but not what I intended. Life is the same. To know the truth, you must ask the one who made it.
Let's read text 5 and text 6. Text 5 and text 6. So let's start with text 5. Beautiful, always lovely to read from Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sacks. So, Felice, as loud as you can.
Think about it, every function.
Loud, because they have to hear you on
They
Zoom.
have to hear. That was once performed by religion can now be done with something else. In other words, if you want to explain the world, you don't need Genesis, you have science. If you want to control the world, you don't need prayers, you have technology. If you want to prosper, you don't necessarily seek God's blessing, you have the global economy. You want to control power, you no longer need prophets. You have a liberal democracy and elections. If you are ill, you don't need a priest, you can go to a doctor. If you feel guilty, you don't have to confess, you can go to the psychotherapist instead. If you are depressed, you don't need faith, you can take a pill. If you still need salvation, you can go today to the cathedrals, shopping centers of Britain, or as one American writer calls them, weapons of mass consumption. Religion seems superfluous, redundant, de trop. Then why does it survive? My answer is simple. Religion survives because it answers three questions every reflective person must ask. Who am I? Why am I here? And then how shall I live?
Right? So it's very simple. It's like you don't need religion for a lot of the things that religion did in the past. A lot of those things you don't need religion for, except for three important questions that everyone has to ask, and religion provides the answer. Who am I? Why am I here? And how then should I live? For those questions, you have to turn to the source creator. Yeah.
I've been around a lot of people who are in depression. Some are ill, some are unable to leave their homes, and it's very clear from what we're learning today that they suffer from this. They don't have, they feel
Aimlessness.
they don't have a purpose, right?
Right.
So what would you share with someone in that population?
So let's do a little more.
Okay, sure.
Let's do a little more. And then that's a very important question. A lot of elderly, they're feeling like, until then, what makes life meaningful? Your job, your relationships, your children. But now the children are away. You're not raising children. You don't have your job. You don't. So it's just emptiness. And this is actually Viktor Frankl. He was one of the main people that saw this and saw that this is, people in 1 year, they age tremendously from when they retire. In 1 year, they just like fall off a cliff because like, what's the meaning? Okay, I got better at golf. I did this, I did that. Okay, so it's like in lesson 1, we said you have to be productive. Okay, so maybe I should be productive by knitting scarves. Maybe that's being productive, or be a giver, be relationships. But it doesn't really give you direction of like, why this, why that? So one person is asking the question, I have money. How can I live with my money in a meaningful way? That's one way. That's lesson 1 model. I have money. I want to lead a meaningful life. How can I use my money in a meaningful way? This lesson introduced it says that's asking the wrong question. The right question to be asking is, why do I have this money? Why did God give me this money? For what purpose? It's so subtle, but it's a whole different way of living. Someone is living like, I exist. I have money. Now, how can I sprinkle some meaning onto it? Versus, no, if I exist for a purpose. And if the creator of my existence gave me money, then it's for a purpose. And if you put me in a certain relationship, it's for a reason. What is that reason? It's a whole different way. So what that reason is, we have more layers to uncover, how to get there. But let's read text 6. Text 6 from Rabbi Avraham Yitzchak HaKohen Kook. He writes, before I was created, during all the limitless time that came before, there was nothing in the world that required me. Had I been needed for any purpose or task, I would have existed earlier. The fact that I wasn't created until that specific moment is proof that there was no need for me until then. My existence was not necessary until it was. And when that time came, I was brought into the world to fulfill a role, to contribute something essential to the perfection of existence. So, you could either be a product of existence, which is kind of how we wake up feeling in the morning. Oh, I exist. And now how can I improve my existence? How can I enhance my existence? Oh, maybe I can enhance it with the latest technology or the latest toys, the latest gifts, the latest gadgets. Oh, that's not calling it. Maybe I'll fill it with meaning, sprinkle on some extra stuff, and fill out your day. And ultimately, King Solomon was saying that's all nothing. That's all worthless. Where does it start from? Moda'ani. God gave me my soul. I was created for a purpose. Now, how can I utilize the fact that he put me here? How can I fulfill my mission? This mindset shift gives people so much strength to get through very hard, difficult things. What we're going to watch here is a video of a you're going to help me out, Matan, with her name.
I can't tell which.
Sapir,
I don't remember.
anyways, I'm calling a blank on her name. Is she?
She was a hostage?
She was a hostage. So we'll watch her a little clip.
And it's this place full of mold and smelly and everything wet, all the walls, all the floor. And you have lice, you have bed bugs in all your body. It's very hard to breathe there. You don't have hair, you can see the sunlight. But, you know, the fact that I believe in God, it doesn't say that I will get everything that I want, and it doesn't say that I will be happy all the time. But it's promised me just one thing, that behind everything that happened, there is purpose. And I just thought about that every time. If I need to be in the tunnels, I will be in the tunnels, and I will try to do the best that I can. I was 55 days in the captivity, and on the last day.
So that incredible, just that little tweak in her mind, and actually, there's actually a great divine providence of what gave her. You know, she grew up really secular, not with a lot of tradition, and everything in her life was good. She had a good life, and then she starts feeling this existential, like something in her body is telling her something is not right. Something is not right. You're like, she felt like her body was telling her, like, you're about to get into something that you can't even imagine. And she's like, what do you mean? All the evidence shows everything is good. And then she sees an ad on TikTok or I don't know, some app, and it says, say Tehillim chapter 27 for 30 days and it'll bring a lot of good things for you. And she decided, I'm going to start saying that. She started saying Psalm 27 every day. And on the 30th day was October 7th.
Oh, yeah.
And she said she lived with that prayer the whole time. The whole prayer was about being saved from your enemies who capture you, and God will not forget about you. Every single word of that prayer gave her tremendous strength. And that's, I think, you know, where did she learn about, you know, God has a purpose? Just from the words of King David, just those words. And for the first few days, she was feeling a lot of self-pity and pain and horrible. And then she's like, okay, I'm not going to survive asking, why me? I'm going to be asking, what am I needed for? As soon as she made that switch, she gained a tremendous amount of strength. And now we understand Queen Esther. Queen Esther saying, what am I needed for? If I die, I die. That's okay. But as long as I know that I serve the function that I came here to serve, why I was created, why I ended up in this palace, then we can get through so much. There was a rabbi, he didn't act as a rabbi, but he was a chassid. He went to yeshiva, and eventually, as the communists were taking over the Soviet, so there's like the youth were very anti-religious, and they started crushing out any religious yeshivas and infrastructure, and he was trying to keep them open. So he's a political enemy. He's sent to Siberia for 10 years. He's in the gulags. And other political prisoners and journalists and other people that are sent to the gulags, they're like, how are you always so happy? How could it be? Don't you see, everyone here is miserable and you're happy. He says it's very simple. You were a famous journalist and now you can't be a journalist. This person was a professor, now he can't be a professor. That person was a doctor, now he can't be a doctor. But I had a purpose before I was sent there, and I still have my purpose that God sent me here for whatever reason. That gave him a lot of strength. About 200 years ago, there were two brothers, Reb Elimelech from Lezhensk and Reb Zusha from Anipola, and they used to travel around, try to uplift the Jewish spirit. People were very broken at the time. There was the massacres of the Chmielnitsky pogroms, and there was also, after the Shabtai Tzvi, false messiah. It was a lot of, the Jewish soul was deeply broken. And so they used to travel around, raise their spirits, raise money for the poor, all these different things they're traveling. One day they're traveling, and I don't remember what caused it, but the Kazakhs decided to throw them in jail. They're in the jail together with a bunch of other hoodlums. And in the jail, there's this Zusha sees his brother Elimelech is sad. He's like, Elimelech, come on, this is not like you. A Jew to be sad? A Jew always has to be happy because you're working for the king. You have the best boss. You're working for the king. A Jew has to be happy. What are you, to be sad because you're in jail? It's like, I'm not sad that I'm in jail. I'm sad that I can't pray because the toilet here, you can't pray in a place that's unclean with that, and I can't pray. So Zusha said, Elimelech, the same God who told us to pray is the same one who told us not to pray when it's dirty. So you're serving him in this way. He says, you're right. So I got to be happy that I can't pray. And they started dancing around the toilet. They started dancing. And the other hoodlums are bored. There's a little joy in this setting. So they also start dancing. And all the gangs and everyone is dancing around it. And suddenly the police is like, the guards are like, what's this whole commotion? They say, we don't know, but these two Jewish guys, they're dancing around the toilet. Says, we got to take out the toilet. They take out the bucket. And now Elimelech was able to pray. But it's just that message of like, at any moment, we could switch from a sense of like, what do I need? Or how can I add more meaning to my life? To a mode of, what am I needed for? What did God put me in this moment at this time for? What is it all about? And that changes everything. So there's like the selfish approach. Even a very spiritual approach is a selfish approach. What do I find meaningful? But the Jewish approach is, what is my purpose? So even the most spiritually doing spiritual activities, if it's not part of your purpose, it's just selfish. And in a way, if we want to get even more advanced, even doing religious mitzvahs could also follow the first approach. Oh, I do this mitzvah because it feels good to me. That mitzvah feels good to me. So I find that mitzvah meaningful. I find this mitzvah meaningful. So these are the mitzvahs I do. But we could upgrade. We can upgrade. Even someone who's doing all the mitzvahs can upgrade their life. Is like, is this about me and how I'm going to gain the biggest share in the world to come? Is that what this is all about? Or is it, what am I needed for? What does God need from me? And that changes everything. That changes everything. We did this already? Okay. Let's read text 7. Let me actually say the story outside. There was this wealthy chassid, and he was, you would say he's the most perfect person you ever knew. He was kind. He worked hard to take care of his family. He studied Torah. He prayed. And he became very wealthy. And he started taking on commitments. In those days, people couldn't marry off their kids unless they could pledge a dowry to the other side. It was a big part of the dating market, was how much are you going to give to set up the couple? It was a big part. And so a lot of families, they didn't have money, and it was a big crisis. And he started taking on, don't worry, I'm taking on your dowry, I'm taking on your dowry, I'm taking on your dowry. And then the wheel of life spins, and he's on the bottom. He comes to his rabbi and he says, Rebbe, I can't bear this. I can't bear this. I have all these dowries I promised to fulfill. I have my 2 daughters need to get married. They're engaged already. I can't pay for the wedding. It's too much for me. If God wants me to be poor, I accept. I'm ready to be poor. I'll be poor. I'm okay. I don't need the money. But what about these obligations that I promised to fulfill? And Reb Shneur Zalman of Liadi told him, you ask me about what you need, but what you are needed for, you don't think about. And he fainted. And he says they had to pour water and smelling salts, pull him out. He says he went to immerse himself in the Torah and prayer, and he became alive from that moment. He became alive. And then 2 weeks later, his Rebbe said, don't worry, Hashem got your back. And in a short amount of time, he rebuilt his fortune, and he was able to pay off everything. So it was a happy ending. But let's analyze the story. He was doing everything good. Was he not leading a meaningful life? He was being productive. He was studying Torah. He was doing mitzvahs. What's wrong with that life? It was just the perspective. Just the perspective. Is it about manya? Manya exists, and now manya creates as much meaning as he can and much perfection on top of that? Or is it, what does God need me for? And so then, there's no more this whole anxiety about, I don't have money. Well, God knows what you need. God knows your purpose better than you. God is taking care of this better than you. And that changed him everything. That gave him so much strength. Just a slight change. The slight change gave him so much strength. This, always the last, building things, always the first 80% is much easier than the last 20% or the last 10% or even the last 5% is almost impossible. And that's kind of, doing lesson 1 is hard, but it's nothing compared to that shift. If we could change that shift of instead of what's in it for me to that shift of what am I needed for, it's the hardest thing to do, but it's the most transformative in giving us inner confidence, inner serenity, inner strength. That's that shift. If we can all make it. So now we have to figure out, okay, how do I find meaning? I read Genesis, I read Noah. Am I supposed to build an ark? Am I supposed to fight with angels? What is it for? So text 8, Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs writes, take a game like football. Some hypothetical visitor from a land to which football has not yet penetrated wants to understand the strange ritual which excites so much passion. You explain the rules of the game, what counts as a foul, what constitutes a goal, and so on. Fine, says the visitor. I now understand the game. What I don't understand is why you get so excited about it. Here you might have to launch into some larger reflection about games as ritualized conflict and the role of play in rehearsing skills needed in actual conflict. You might even suggest that ritualized conflict reduces the need for actual conflict. The football pitch is a substitute for the battlefield. There is an internal logic of the system, the rules of football, but the meaning of the system lies elsewhere, and it can only be understood through some sense of the wider human context in which it is set. To do this, you have to step outside the system and see why it was brought into being. There is no way of understanding the meaning of football by merely knowing its rules. They tell you how to play the game, but not why people do so and why they invest in it, the passions they do. The internal workings of a system do not explain the place the system holds in human lives. The meaning of the system lies outside the system. Therefore, the meaning of the universe lies outside the universe. Only something or someone outside the universe can give meaning to the universe. You're not going to find the purpose of creation within creation. You have to look to something that exists outside the system. This football story reminds me of a funny story I heard which is very interesting because earlier we read a text from Rabbi Kook. Rabbi Kook was one of the founding chief rabbis of Israel. Okay, so Now, there was two chief rabbis. Why do you need two chief rabbis, especially two Ashkenazi ones? Because one was anti-Zionist in Jerusalem, but anti-Zionist was in favor of let the British mandate run Israel, be at least they'll respect religion more than the secular Jews who are anti-religious. But then you had Rabbi Kook, and he was a lover of the land of Israel, and he wanted Jews to run the land of Israel. And so he got along a lot more with the secular youth of Israel. So they came to him and they said, Rabbi, can we play soccer on Shabbos? So he says, or football, whatever they call it. How do you, tell me about it. How do you play this game? So he says, it's very simple. You have this goalpost on one side of the field and a goalpost on another. And the goal of the game is to get the ball into the post. So he says, I don't understand. Why don't you put the ball there before Shabbos? Right? Like he didn't understand. Like, put it there before Shabbos. He didn't. Right? So sometimes, you have to understand like the meaning of something. You have to understand something beyond. Like, why did they create the game in this way? Then you can understand something deeper. So now let's get. I'm sorry, it keeps on coming to my head. There's like a Jewish football player invites his mother to one of the games. The mother's coming and like in shock, all the noise, all the spectators, everyone is coming to watch what's going to be. And they play the game. His team wins. He comes to, Mama, you like the game? How was it? He says, I just don't get it. I don't get it. They threw a quarter in the beginning of the game. One team gets the quarter. The other team, the whole thing is like, go get the quarterback. Go get the quarterback. It's like, take the quarter and stop fighting. What's the whole fight of the whole, right? Sometimes, and that's in a way how scientists look at the world. They're asking questions, but they could really only answer the questions of what? They can answer physics. How does this world work? But why the world works? So people get caught up, Rabbi, science and religion, how does it match? How does it compete? It's different fields. One is telling you the what, and one is telling you the why. Right? So they can tell you cells divide in this pace and that pace and this stage of pregnancy and that stage of pregnancy. But why? Can't explain. Right? Every field. And so really, science and Torah are a glove, a hand in a glove. They work perfectly together. You need to know the reality of the world. You go to the scientist. You need to know why and what to do with this world that we have in front of us. You have to look to the source. Who's the source? Wouldn't it be convenient if the one who designed the world told us how to use it? The good news is he did. Let's look at text 9. Alpayim shadna kadma Torah livriyas shalaylam. The Torah's existence preceded the world by 2,000 years. Say, hold on, something doesn't add up here. When did time begin? Didn't time begin when the world was created? So what's 2,000 years before the world was created? So obviously the mystics say we're talking about in hierarchy of value. What's built on what? Was it the world was created and 2,000 years, 2,000 years later, God comes along and says, you know what? I need to spice things up. We need to add some meaning to this world. Let me insert some Torah over here. No. It's the opposite. The Torah was created first. The meaning of the system was created first. The Torah is 2,000 years before the world was created. Now, God creates the world, gives humans the ability to learn the system, the what of the world, 2,000 years. After 2,000 years, God says, okay, now I'm going to show you a little bit about the why. What the plan of this all. And he gave us the Torah.
So the Torah exists outside the system?
The Torah exists outside the system. There's the way we learn Torah on this earth, and there's the way the angels learn Torah. The angels, they're learning Torah on a whole different level than how we learn Torah. We're learning Torah if Reuven and Shimon have a dispute over the fence. What should be the rule? How do you figure out where the fence belongs? And if the leaves of the tree go into your neighbor, but you already raked your garden, can you make them pay for it? That's one layer of the Torah. But there's a whole deeper dimension of what it all represents. a whole deeper meaning. That all existed before the world created. Very cool, very powerful, right? And so that's where the Kabbalists, when they learn Torah, it's like it's not just like there's the way halachists learn Torah, very legalistic, but there's the way a mystic learns Torah. It's almost like romantic. It's almost like your soul is going on because you're getting in touch with the why of the universe, the deepest mysteries of the universe. Now, this now answers a cute puzzle in a famous story of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva is probably one of the most famous Jews that ever lived. Everyone agree?
Yes.
Okay, anyone never heard of Rabbi Akiva? Okay, so Rabbi Akiva lived 120 years, but ultimately he was executed by the Romans for teaching Torah. The Romans banned study of Torah. After they destroyed the temple, they said, we thought we'll destroy the temple and Judaism will die. It's not dying. What's going on? Oh, they have their Torah. They have their Shabbos. They have circumcision. Let's stomp out Torah, Shabbos, kosher, circumcision, and then we'll be survived. One day, someone sees that Rabbi Akiva is teaching Torah. He says, what are you, insane? You're going to die. And if you die, the Romans are going to kill you. You're not afraid? He says, let me tell you the parable of the fox and the fish. Text 10. If we can get a volunteer. Maybe we could get our new guest, Dr. Kagedin, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. What?
Hajdan.
Kagdan. Text 10, please.
Once the wicked Roman government issued a decree forbidding Jews from studying Torah. Oh, are you hearing me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, just want to make sure. Pappus ben Yehuda came upon Rabbi Akiva, who was publicly gathering groups and teaching Torah. He said to him, Akiva, aren't you afraid of the authorities? Rabbi Akiva replied, let me tell you a parable. A fox was walking along a river and saw fish darting back and forth. He said to them, why are you fleeing? They answered, from the nets that people have cast for us. Said the fox, why don't you come up onto dry land and live with me, just as your ancestors lived with mine? The fish said to him, are you the one they call the cleverest of animals? You're not clever, you're foolish. If we're in danger even here, in the place that gives us life, how much more so if we leave it for a place where we can't survive? The same is true for us, Rabbi Akiva concluded. If we're at risk even while studying Torah, the source of life, as it says, for it is your life and the length of your days. How much worse would it be if we abandon it?
Okay. So it's like, okay, before we learned about Torah, this sentence, we might have thought, okay, nice. Torah is nice. Torah is life and death for a Jew. Why is Torah life and death for a Jew? Torah is a meaningful avenue, and there are other ways to be meaningful in life. Torah is one, but you could also get that from being a good learning other wisdoms. But now we see it changes, because this doesn't give, all the other wisdoms give you meaning. You could learn all about art and architecture or about relationships. It gives you meaning, but doesn't give you purpose. The only place where you can find your purpose is by the designer of that purpose, is the Torah. So by learning that, now we see a Jew needs Torah for life. A Jew needs Torah like a fish needs water. So you can have wealth, relationships, wisdom, legacy, spirituality. Those are all, trying, like that's a fish trying to run away from the fisherman, going on dry land by chasing all these. Maybe if I'm wealthy, I'll be happy. Maybe if I relationships, wisdom, legacy, spirituality. But then the hedonic treadmill sets in. It's like, no, what is this all worth? It's one thing. What's amazing about King Solomon is when did he say it's all worthwhile? Not if he's failing. Like, it's one thing someone's failing at all the relationships, failing at their spiritual pursuits, failing at wealth creation. Then they could say, as much as I try, I can never get to the peak. No, he got to the peak. He says, I tried it all. What is it? I call Hevel. It's all like a fish running to the beach. It's the wrong place. But the good news is that King Solomon, at the end of Kohelet, the second to last verse, how does he end? Text 11. Seif davar hakol nishma es alaim yira ves mismaisav shamar ki zeh kol adam. The end of the matter, after everything is considered, revere God and keep his commandments, because that is what it means to be a human. Just function as you were designed. That's the whole purpose. Fulfill your purpose. That's what it's all about. It takes a King Solomon to reach that wisdom, but he shared it with all of us.
We need more Torah valued therapists out there.
Yeah, and it's even within our. In other words, you could learn Torah in the wrong way. You could learn Torah as in a way of like, I exist. How can I find meaning for my life in Torah? Oh, so this part of Torah I find meaningful. That part of Torah I don't find meaningful. Pick and choose. So you can actually learn Torah, do mitzvahs, do everything, and not living your purpose. You're all in the mindset of what's in it for me, and how can I make my life better, and how can I use Torah as self-help? King Solomon's saying you could do that path, and it's probably a better path than eating chocolate all day. It's probably a better path, but you're missing the mark. You're not getting there. You want to get to the place where you need to go? Live by the way you're designed. How do you know how you're designed? Look at the blueprints. Where's the blueprints? The Torah. So it's a whole different way. It's a whole different approach.
So you do need a rabbi, because you started off by saying you need a
You don't need a
Hasidic
rabbi for meaning. For meaning, you don't need a rabbi.
But to explain what you just said is like gold.
For a purpose, that you need.
For purpose, yeah.
For a purpose.
Yeah.
And you need to find also the right rabbis.
The right
Someone who
ones.
first of all believes that the Torah is the blueprint for creation. Not everyone who claims to be a rabbi believes that. And also you need, even as I said, you could have a rabbi that's very smart in Torah. He finds Torah very meaningful. And even me, I sometimes within myself, sometimes I'm learning Torah. I'm learning, wow, I find this so brilliant and so compelling and so inspiring. But it's not about what's so inspiring and so what's compelling. It's
So can I
about
ask you a
how do I live
question?
my purpose. It's always a choice to make.
So as a rabbi, I'm sure you see a lot of people come to you, ask you questions about their children, about themselves. Do you try to analyze like who they are, how they could bring Torah into their purpose?
They don't have to bring Torah into their purpose. They have to acknowledge that they were created for a purpose. And now Torah is that purpose. So it starts with Torah says get married. Torah says have a family. Torah says everything that Torah says, you just do it, and then you're following your purpose. And then there's always the tricky parts of like, how do I know what's my purpose? In other words, you just gave me a very big purpose, do
Right.
Torah mitzvahs. But is that it? It is? Is that like what about my livelihood? Should I even the way you do money, the way you live can be the way you eat, everything could be purposeful. So now how do you do that? There's some art to it. There's an art to it, and that's the rest of the course. Is the art of figuring out your purpose and actualizing it. Okay. And let's go. So that's King Solomon. Revere God and keep his commandments, because that's what it means to be a human.
Lesson 2. To make or not to make meaning. 1. The question about searching for the meaning of our lives is a distraction. Meaning is subjective. It refers to anything I deem to be enriching, inspiring, and beneficial. There's a more important question we need to answer. What is our purpose? Purpose is objective and focuses on what I am needed for at any given moment, irrespective of personal feelings, preferences, and benefits. 2. God created us intentionally, so our lives are inherently purposeful. There is a mission that precedes our coming into the world, and Judaism wants us to ask, what is my purpose? Rather than just, what do I find meaningful? 3. Purpose isn't dependent on circumstances, because if God put us in a certain situation, there is certainly purpose in it for us. 4. Purpose can't be discovered from inside the system. It must come from outside the system. Only from beyond existence can we find the purpose for which the entire system was established. The Torah, conceptually, precedes the world. It is not part of creation. It is from beyond the system. 5. A society that prioritizes pleasure and freedom, even if pursued through meaningful channels, cannot hold together. With no higher calling and no objective reason for being here, we float freely, and meaning disappears. For us Jews, Torah is the only space where our soul can imbibe life-sustaining purpose.
And by the way, Jews believe that the Torah is also the guide for all of mankind. That a non-Jew who says, I find believing in God meaningful, and I find he keeps all the Noahide laws because he finds them meaningful, he didn't really reach his purpose. He has to acknowledge that God designed me with this purpose. His acknowledgement has to come also through the Torah, that I accept that from the Torah, I have to be a Noahide.
And
that's very important.
That's a non-Jew.
That's the non-Jew has their purpose. They have their 7 big mitzvahs.
Wow.
And ultimately, the whole of humanity, all this polarization that's going on in the country, there's all these, okay, gun control, we'll try this, we'll try that. And it's like, they're not getting to the root. The root is that people are not living with their purpose. If people live with their purpose, people will start respecting individuality, because every individual obviously has an individual purpose, or else why would God create individuals? But also everyone will see that we're also part of a system. So it all starts from this fundamental premise that we're all created for a reason. And that's really the secret for world peace, for everything. But sometimes Jews are a little shy to speak this, because we used to get killed if we said it, But how many Jews know this? How many Jews know that this is why we exist in the world, to be a light unto the nations? Most Jews don't know that this is our purpose, our lagaim, and we have to live it. But thank you all for joining for this lesson 2.
Very good.
And I hope you'll join us again for lesson 3 next week, same time, same place. And thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good night.
Those who want to stay a couple more minutes, I actually want to share a short idea from the Zohar. Anyone else who wants to leave could leave, but a short idea from the Zohar connected to this theme, because this week's Torah portion is Chaya Sarah. Chaya Sarah. Sarah passed away. Sarah is the first Jewess, right? Abraham, Sarah. So Sarah's buried in this week's Torah, but it's called the life of Sarah. And it says, Sarah perfected what Adam and Noah messed up. Adam ate from the tree, and according to one opinion, the tree was wine, was grapes. And then Noah, after the flood, what does he do? Grapes, right? And then Sarah fixed fixed Adam and Noah. That's what the Zohar says. The Zohar says, and the Zohar explains. Adam said, wow, God created me to be the most perfect human being. I was created by God. I'm perfect. But why did he create me? To be a robot? Why would he give me brains if he wants me to be a robot? Why would he give me a heart if he wants me to be a robot? Obviously, God wants my opinion about things, my feelings about things. God doesn't want me to be a robot, or else why did he give me a mind and a brain? He says, I have to reach the perfection of the mind and perfection of the human emotional experience. I have to bring that out. And he said, wine represents enjoyment. And he says, that's going to be my path, by enjoying creation, the delight of creation, the delight of intellect. And he got caught up in this search for perfection. And that was ultimately his downfall, the search of perfection of the human. In other words, like, how can I be the most perfect human? By using my mind, using my heart. And so his eating from the tree of knowledge was with like positive intentions. He's like, obviously, God gave me a heart and a mind. Let me advance. And ultimately, it was his failing because that wasn't his purpose. God told him, I want you to eat from this and not eat from that. That's your purpose. I designed you. I tell you. Now, within that, within the rules that I tell you, go use your mind, go use your heart. But no, it's like, I learned from Adam. Adam, the whole problem is he's trying to have a conscious relationship with the divine. The divine is infinite. You cannot use your heart and mind to have a relationship with the divine. It's just not possible. The divine is infinite. Your mind, as great as your mind is finite. Your heart is as big as your heart is, it's finite. What you have to do is you have to use wine to intoxicate yourself. Now you become higher than consciousness. Your relationship with God goes, you live from a drunk state. When you're drunk, your feelings don't get in the way, your attitudes don't get in the way. That's the solution. So Adam went one extreme, Noah goes the opposite extreme. Adam's like, how can I bring myself into the experience? Noah says, it's not about me. Let me surrender to the wine. Let me surrender to Hashem. And ultimately, it didn't lead to good things either. Sarah was the one who figured out how to be fully present and fully surrendered and at the same time. Adam is like, let me be fully present. Let me show up with my full self. And Noah's like, let me be fully surrendered. But Sarah was the one who's like, what am I here for? That was Sarah's gift of, well, what am I here for? That's what I'll do. Whatever it takes. If I need to be creative to do that, I'll do that. But it's not about trying to be creative. It's not about trying to surrender either. It's not about me. It's her getting out of the way and just letting godliness flow through her. That was the healing of, which is chapter 1 of book of Kohelet, and chapter 2, what King Solomon's 2 paths of what he's advocating. Don't try to, at the end, just follow God's words. That was the healing of Sarah that brought. So it's a merit. We're reading Sarah this week's Parsha, so it's her merit.
So it was a woman who figured
It was the woman who figured it out. Ultimately, the women always figure it out before the men. Yeah. You're mentioning that when God gives the Torah to the Jewish people, he tells Moses, you should teach the woman, go teach the woman, and then tell the children of Israel, the sons of Israel. Teach the woman first. It says, because last time I told Adam about the fruit of tree, and I told the woman later, it didn't work out. We have to tell the woman first.
Learn from your mistakes.
Learn from your mistakes. Tell the woman first. Very good. But the Medrash says that it will be the woman who will actually bring redemption to the world.
Really?
Just like they did in Egypt, it was not the women as leaders, but the women were optimists the entire time. The men were like, no point of having children. Pharaoh will just kill them all. Why grow them up in slaves? It was the merit of the Jewish woman that we were redeemed. And in their merit, we will be redeemed in the future.
Really?
Yeah. Amen. Maybe very soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
We don't want to leave.
I know.
We want more.
What? Yeah, I didn't. So I have to ask the office. I didn't ask the office. It didn't clear.
Take care of our people.
Okay, very good.
Okay, I guess we have to leave.
Danny,
Thank you.
Okay, thank
Danny, we
you
have to-
so
we have
much.
to
This
be-
was amazing.
Yes.
I'll be in touch with you about Sunday. Perfect.
The second.
Very good, Joe. Good night.